Hearing your name, the phantom voice bug. You're home alone, zoned into a game when someone whispers your name right behind you. You spin around, but no one's there. It wasn't just any name, it was the one only your mom uses, and it sounded exactly like her. 15% of people report hearing their name when they're alone. It's more common than you'd think, like an NPC voice line, triggered to pull the player back on track. Your name is a brain keyword, always top priority. It's known as the cocktail party effect. Your brain filters for personally relevant sounds. Sometimes, in the right conditions, your brain misfires, misinterprets background noise, and generates a false positive. An auditory hallucination or a recall glitch. The scary part is, what if these are timeline leaks, corrupted voice files unexpectedly playing back in your reality? In 2015, police found a car upside down in a Utah river. First responders clearly heard a woman's voice crying, "Help me." But when they reached the car, the woman had been dead for hours, and only her baby had survived. What if it's not a glitch? What if it's a proximity ping from somewhere you can't see? So when you're alone and hear your name, who's really calling you? Answered thought phenomenon. The simulation listens back. You're walking through a store, thinking about coffee. Aisle 5 maybe? Then a stranger turns and says, "Next to the T," but you never said it out loud. Somehow, the game still knew your next move. Like Newton and the falling apple. Some moments feel scripted, much like reality is reacting to your thought before it finished forming. This is the strange part. Are your thoughts being read and answered by someone watching from behind the simulation? The pattern repeats itself. You think of a song, and 5 minutes later, it plays on the radio. You mentally debate calling your mom. She calls first. Just a thought, followed immediately by a response. A real-world manifestation of something you never said out loud. Skeptics argue it's just a memory bias. Your brain remembers the hits and forgets the misses, creating an illusion of connection. Maybe it's not an illusion. Maybe it's a developer tool you're not supposed to access. But that doesn't explain the timing, the precision, and the way it feels aimed right at you. It's said this is how the system works, a codebase that listens, adjusts, and reacts. But many believe certain players can sense your thoughts, and worse, some can send theirs back. Telepathy, anyone? And if thoughts get answered, think again. They were probably never yours to begin with. Helpful stranger glitch, NPC assist triggered. Your car breaks down in the middle of nowhere. No signal, no GPS, and rain is pouring. Then, a pickup truck pulls up and its driver has exactly what you need. Jumper cables, tools, directions. You turn to thank them, but they're gone. A perfect NPC that despawned after completing the mission. This is the helpful stranger phenomenon. One of the weirdest system moments in real life. It happens in places you barely remember, at times that make no sense. And every time, it feels programmed. Like someone loaded in with the exact skills you needed at the exact checkpoint. But why does it feel too precise to be random? Why does it seem procedurally triggered? A stranger with medical training shows up seconds after someone collapses. Someone else hands you the exact change you're missing. And a local who speaks your language appears when you're lost in a foreign city. Out of nowhere, the most qualified background character steps forward for their one line. You shrug it off as luck, but deep down, you sense a force beyond your consciousness, pulling strings just before you notice the need. One Redditor's brother died young. His plate read Wahoo, tied to their favorite song. 20 years later, at a hockey game, that exact song played. A stranger beside him revealed her brother died the same year and loved the same song. But then came the part he couldn't believe. Her license plate also read Wahoo. Different player, but same function, and perhaps same glitch. 1111 effect, the dev signal. You're on your way home when a zigzagging car nearly hits you. Your heart races. But what sticks isn't the near crash. It's the license plate, 222. Third time this week you spot this number, and weirdly enough, you were never looking for it. But it's always there. That morning, your bill came to $22. Later that week, you had an appointment on the 22nd floor. The number keeps showing up, like a save file reloading again and again. How many times have you already played through this? Maybe it's no coincidence, maybe it's a countdown. Once is chance, a random spawn. Twice is definitely weird, but the third time, the code's trying to say something. They call it the 1111 phenomenon. The belief that repeating numbers are a sign or a call to action from the universe. Science calls it apophenia, your brain's habit of finding patterns in chaos. But millions experience the same numbers stalking them. Fixed points in the timeline that feel hard-coded into reality. That leaves only one question. Who wrote this script? There are those who believe 1111 is a checkpoint, a timeline marker baked into the framework. Then, there are the ones who call it a debug slip the developers forgot to hide. Either way, it only shows up when you're desperate for a sign. Synchronicity, coincidence or algorithm repeating. Imagine you're not you, you're Carl Jung, sitting across from a patient describing a dream about a golden scarab beetle. As she speaks, you hear a soft tapping at your window. You glance back and can't believe it. A scarab beetle, wings tapping the glass, right as it's mentioned. This strange phenomenon is synchronicity, when two events align with no logical connection between them. A perfect anomaly, as if both moments were written in the same timeline. It's something nearly everyone has experienced in one form or another. You pick up a book out of curiosity in a store and open to a page that perfectly answers the question that's been bothering you all week. You say something random, and someone repeats it a minute later across the room. Could it mean that you've triggered an unseen event flag? Some call it a narrative sync error when the system locks onto your internal state, spawning events that match it. Scientists say it's just your brain connecting the dots, even when they aren't really there. But none of that explains the timing. Jung believed synchronicity revealed something deeper, a hidden structure beneath cause and effect. If moments are syncing, chances are you're not actually lagging, you're loading. Perhaps it's an algorithm reacting in real time, matching your internal frequency to the next available event. In 1805, Émile Deschamps first tasted plum pudding, offered by a man named Fonchibou. 10 years later, he ordered it again at a restaurant. It had just been served to a man with the same name. In 1832, Deschamps ordered the pudding once more and joked that only Fonchibou was missing. At that exact moment, the now elderly Fonchibou walked in, having accidentally arrived at the wrong restaurant. Think about it. How many times has your story already been debugged and replayed without you ever knowing? Object displacement effect, item recall bug. You're looking for your watch. You've checked your bag, your jacket, and the counter countless times, but it's gone, like it was erased. Hours later, you come back and it's right there, in the middle of the table you already searched, not hidden, not misplaced. Just there, hinting the scene reloaded while you were gone. Sure, sometimes it's just absent-mindedness. But in the most baffling cases, the item respawns in a spot that had been thoroughly searched, or impossibly, in a place it never should have been. In the strangest glitched-out moments, it resembles a background item getting pulled into the foreground without permission, a piece of reality that didn't exist, until suddenly it did. Reality doesn't forget, it just renders late. In 2008, a woman named Kate left her keys in her front door. They vanished completely. She searched everywhere and eventually changed all her locks. Then, over a year later, reality glitched. The keys reappeared on her pillow in a completely different apartment in a new city. In her own words, it left her nauseous and giddy with shock, as no one else has access to her apartment. Isn't that exactly what slipping back into a forgotten timeline would feel like? If items can return on their own, what else could respawn? Map anomalies, render zone error. In Marvel, Wakanda is hidden, invisible to satellites, blank on maps. In real life, you probably have spotted something eerily similar. You're scrolling through Street View late at night, not looking for anything, just wandering. A virtual drive through a city you've never been to. Then suddenly, you see a road that leads to nothing and a building with no doors. You blink, refresh, and it's gone. Just as it is when players stumble into areas they were never meant to access. Most people think Google Maps is a perfect tool, a fixed copy of the physical world. But it's just a stitched-together simulation. Map anomalies can be explained as Easter eggs in the data pipeline, rendering errors, misaligned frames, or overlapping time captures. But some go deeper, places that appear once and never again, shapes that don't match physical space, or structures that exist only in the digital version. People describe them as visual bugs or reality leaks, moments when the render engine hiccups and forgets to hide what's underneath. And yet, people still stumble into them. Imagine if those dead ends aren't mistakes at all, but intentional off-limit zones written into the design. Two teens walking along Florida beach dunes reported being trapped in what felt like an NPC loop. They passed the exact same scenery, 3 isolated condos, a one-legged heron, and a plane overhead. 5 times in a row, despite walking forward. When they finally turned around, the condos were long out of sight. They'd been moving forward the entire time, making what they experienced physically impossible. What if you walk into a glitch? Will the system correct you or reroute the map? Discovering rooms you've never noticed. Test chamber unlocked. You're walking through a building you've been in hundreds of times, your school, workplace, or even your apartment complex. When you notice a door you swear wasn't there before. Not newly installed, though somehow completely unnoticed until now. When you open it, you discover an entire room or hallway you never knew existed, as if the map updated in real time. It looks perfectly ordinary, but something about it feels off. Until you realize it doesn't belong to the same level as the rest of the building. You step inside and instantly notice. The lighting falls differently. The sound doesn't echo right. The air seems slightly wrong. The room exists physically, but suggests a space that hasn't been rendered properly. This isn't just imagination. In 2021, a New York woman named Samantha Hartsoe felt an unusual cold draft coming from her bathroom mirror. When she removed it from the wall, a chill ran through her as she uncovered what lay behind. An entire 3-bedroom apartment, completely hidden and unfinished. A reality bug, straight out of the horror movie, Candyman. This wasn't just strange, it was pure analog horror, the kind of glitch core that crawls under your skin. Presumably architectural oversights, some tend to think they're actually leftover map zones. Test environments never meant to be found. Sometimes the system forgets its own boundaries and opens doors it was never meant to.